Welcome to the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc Renee and Sean Castles, coming to you from Radio Waves Studios in New York City. Now, let's kick off the show.
Well, hi again, everybody. I am Marc Renee. That is Sean Castles, and we are continuing today our Chelsea episode. Special guest star starting things off, though, and this is interesting because he really is quite literally a living legend. Jack Keane, the brains behind the football factory at Legends, Mr. Castles.
Yeah, it was an early snowy morning, a Sunday morning, January 18th. Mark and I were going to see Villa take on Everton. I mean, it was practically empty. It was really quiet, and Jack Keane heard you and I chatting away about the podcast and just said, "Hey, I'm willing to talk with you guys about this."
Not only that, he said, "Hey, do you want to know a story?" And he said he had 5 minutes to give us at halftime, and if we didn't have to pull the plug on him after the second half started, he might still be talking to us.
It was fantastic. Jack is credited with bringing soccer to New York City bars, and we'll just kind of let him explain it to you.
You have no idea what it was like 32 fucking years ago.
Oh, no, I believe it.
I was 25 years of age. I was a bartender, and there was a bar downtown that I worked in, and I said to the guys who owned it, they were from Cork in Ireland, and I said to them, "Would you mind if I started just showing soccer here and nothing else?" And they said, "We don't care what the fuck you do during the day, because we're making our money at night, you know?" And it was so different in those days, because you had a game on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, you had one on a Sunday at 11:30. They came in from Setanta Sport, okay? Mm-hmm. Both games were pay-per-view. How Setanta operated was very simple. You had to buy their receiver and big C-band satellite dish. They didn't charge you for the games, because they sent someone to the door, you understand? So they had a representative of Setanta Sport show up, a guy like you or him, in the sweatshirt and jeans, came to the door, and everyone who walked in had to give them $20. It was as simple as that. Now, fast forward to 2007, right? The Fair Trade and Monopolies Commission in the UK announced that Sky Sports were no longer allowed to have the 100% monopoly on live broadcasts. So who went in to take the 15% available? Setanta Sport. You know why? Because they had made, between 1992-93 season when I started, and when Fox started to take over probably 10 years later, by the early 2000s, in that amount of time, they had venues obviously all across New York, all across West Coast, very little in the middle, certainly south as well in Florida, places like that. But that $20 per head at the door, over 10 fucking years, made them millions. So Setanta Sport came to the table in England. They sat down with basically the people from who were the direct representatives of the big clubs, and said, "Yeah, we'll go in for 15%." And they gave them something like 200 million, right, that they had accumulated here. Because it was incredible the money they were taking, all undocumented, of course. And then what happened was they projected, that X amount of people in the UK would subscribe to them. And they went way under, and they went bankrupt. So that's what happened to Setanta. Yeah, they were very well run and managed, okay?
Yeah.
The guy who ran them, Shane O'Rourke was his name. He was a fantastic operator, you know? But that's where all the money came from, okay? But getting back to the early days, and you'll laugh at this, I would record on a VHS tape the 10 o'clock game on a Saturday, and the 11 o'clock on a Sunday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, as late as Thursday, people would come in, "Can you put on United Arsenal?"
Because there was nothing like that back
No, but
then.
you must understand, there was no internet. Unless you phoned on a hard line directly, no one knew the score.
Yeah.
Now, if you were in and you saw the game live, obviously you knew. But there was a great kind of a code of silence. So in other words, if you knew someone next to you hadn't seen the game live, you didn't tell them the score. But I remember guys in there on a Wednesday and a Thursday biting their nails watching a game that ended 4 fucking days ago.
That's absolutely incredible.
But the craziest thing of all was I was 25, 26 years of age, and I insisted every day I would put on replays, because there was nobody in this country remotely interested in showing soccer. Setanta bought it in on C-band pay-per-view. Like, nobody wanted to know about it. And I remember being, "Hey, buddy, what the fuck is this on the TV? Are you a fag? Are you a commie? What the fuck is this?
Yeah, no.
And I'm not kidding you, mate.
I believe you. Yeah, absolutely.
There was a guy in, I'm going to say he was a Republican nominee for the fucking White House. His name was Jack Kemp.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And he went on Capitol Hill, quote unquote, and said, it's very important we keep the evil communist game from the youth of America. That'll just give you an idea of the climate that I came into.
Yeah.
But this place downtown, Nevada Smiths, it's now Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. It's on the corner. 3rd Avenue between 11th and 12th.
I used to go there.
It closed. I was the guy who started the soccer down there. It closed in 2010. That's when I came up here. I'm an owner here and I'm a partner in the business. But when people talk about soccer culture, I always say to them, if you only fucking knew. I was manhandled by people telling me to take that crap off the television, buddy. Oh, you've no idea. And I remember the morning that USA beat Portugal at the start of the 2002 Korea-Japan World Cup, right?
Yeah.
One of the pre-tournament favourites were Portugal. USA, fantastic performance. Beat them. I think the USA were 3-0 up and Portugal came out. Anyway, it finished 3-2. And it went live to ESPN and the ESPN Sports Centre. Well, we're not really sure how to react to this because this game we've no interest in and it's not the American game. So, but, well done, guys. But we couldn't care. Literally, one of the greatest fucking performances by the men's national team. And it was about that year or the following year, someone came into ESPN who went 360 and said, guys, we're getting behind this.
Yeah.
And that's when the whole thing started. I'm going to say that was the start of something because then all of a sudden Gold TV started to show La Liga. It was very funny about Gold TV when they signed the deal. They hadn't read the small print. They had licensed to broadcast 18 teams.
Uh-huh.
Guess which two they couldn't show?
Real and Barcelona.
Yeah, they didn't realize that. They were not allowed to show those two. They had everyone else but those two. Then Fox Soccer Channel was showing a Prem game here and there.
Yeah.
And bit by bit, Setanta lost the monopoly. But in the early days, boys, I couldn't begin to tell you what it was like. It's fucking 32 years later, every game in the world is live. There's nothing you can't watch, you know what I mean? There's nothing I don't show here. But it's like, anytime anyone's interested in knowing about the culture in this country of the game, I was there on the front line, mate, let me tell you. And it was bizarre. But to see how it's grown and the interest, and every single young American kid now has a shirt in the wardrobe, doesn't he? It could be a Bayern, it could be a Barca, it could be a Liverpool, whatever it is. And not only that, what amazes me is the knowledge these young American kids, they're so they're huge fans of NFL or hockey, whatever, great. But the knowledge they have on global soccer as well is amazing.
FIFA.
It's gotten better.
It's all about FIFA.
You know what? The FIFA, absolutely.
The video game.
And I'll tell you one of the reasons I know that. One of my family members in Jersey, his sons who were big Giants and Yankees family, the little kids when they were growing up never knew anything about soccer until they started playing.
Yeah.
The Real Madrid and the Barcelona jerseys for Christmas. And Sean, their dad, would say, what the I said, they ever play? It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I wasn't indoctrinating. I would have said I've always said to people, it's not about the game. It's about the people who watch it.
That's
bottom
what
line.
This is about.
If I demand that you get I'll tell you right now, kicking a round ball is better than throwing an oval ball. That's a ridiculous argument.
Yeah.
That's a matter of preference. You know what I mean? What I will tell you is the culture of the game is unmatched. And the whole, I joke with NFL fans all the time who come in and say, sorry, I reckon the Jets and the Giants are down this year. Huh? What do you mean? I said, relegation, right? In NFL? Pretending,
Yeah.
And they're, what the hell is that? I said, okay, this is what happens to the three worst teams. And you know what they say? They fucking should, buddy.
They should, absolutely.
Yeah.
As Jets fans, absolutely.
I spent so much money on season tickets. But
the PL cost is
oh
through the
my
roof.
God,
It's through the roof.
And coming up from the lower division, but also like the fact that, let's say you take a team, let's say, any team, let's say Villa finish in the top four, right? Mm-hmm. Very famous club from the Midlands, great support. And, they're drawn in the Champions League. Very, very likely they could play a club as old, from another part of Europe that they've never played before.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it's like, wow, Villa are going out to play Dynamo Moscow. There's a 3,000-mile journey on a Wednesday night. And they'll bring out 2,000 or 3,000, with them.
Yeah.
And that's what makes football great, is this uncertainty of who you're playing in Europe. Obviously, week in, week out, you know who you're playing in the league. But even then, every year, that varies because there's 3 new teams, possibly, or, depending on who's up and who's down.
And Europe competition?
Oh, of course. While I always say, like, in American sport, you know exactly who you're playing because it never varies.
Yeah.
Not that I love baseball, that's my game, but it's like there's a certainty that you never get away from. While in soccer globally, with, you know, South America, obviously you have the Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana. Europe, the big two are obviously the Europa League, obviously the Champions League is the biggest. But the whole idea that you have such uncertainty and such coming together of clubs that normally would never play each other, I think that's a great romantic side to the game, you know.
You know, Sean, I don't know about you, but having lived in the Bergen County, New Jersey area for so long where the malls are closed on Sunday, my brain has a Sunday blue law of its own. Doesn't like to learn a lot new, but that was like a broadcasting history lesson from Jack. And we thought we were done at the end of halftime as it bled over into the second half. But he's like a wind-up toy. Just let him go. And he kept going.
That's right. He was still giving gems to us, so we just pulled the recorder back out and got it all on tape. You know, Jack, actually, without even having met you, we gave you a shout-out last week when we were doing the Chelsea. We were doing our Chelsea record. So if you do listen to us, even before we knew who Jack Keane was,
very good.
We were saying nice things about
And that's
you.
why I say to people, the biggest statement that you can make as an asshole is, do you know who I am? Don't take it personally, boys.
We certainly do.
Honestly, no. I say that to people all the time, and they go, who the fuck are you? I said, well, if you want to listen to me for a couple of minutes, you're a soccer fan, I'll tell you something you might find interesting. And you know what people go, particularly when I tell them about the memories I have of being a young bartender and guys sitting downtown at Nevada Smith's, biting their nails off 3 days after a game was over.
I love it.
Crazy.
I
that VHS machine taped those games, and I replayed them, and yeah. But there's so many stories, but it was just when you were talking to that fella, I wanted to put my...
No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's literally been... You have built
and I
the
built
Mecca
it,
here.
and you know what? I do better than anyone else? Being here. See, I mean, I am open at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I'm open at 8:30 on a Sunday, and it doesn't make any difference if it's the biggest game or the smallest game. It's what we call a performance standard. That's what we do to make sure the Football Factory is acknowledged. And I don't, you know, good luck to everyone in this business who does. The one thing I do say to people is, normally anytime you go to a bar in New York City on a Sunday afternoon, you'll walk into a bar, the NFL is on.
Exactly.
Right? You walk down these stairs here. Today our big two games are AC Milan are playing at 2:45. African Cup of Nations is 2. We'll have a couple of French games. There's pre-season in Brazil. So that's the strength of the Football Factory. Legends is fantastic. Legends does the American sport. Mm-hmm. While you come down here, you know that we have whatever game you want in the world, we'll have it on for you.
And for those listening here, there is Legends is the upstairs first floor, and you guys are downstairs.
Yes, this is the Football Factory at Legends, and that's the difference between, like, certainly at night time here, if nothing is happening, they'll do events like UFC and boxing and all that. But predominantly once there's games, and obviously we cater for the whole South American audience as well. And so we just do like all the European stuff, if you like, is on a 5-hour difference, and then the South American is generally in real time. You know?
How do you keep them from fighting? Right?
Well, you know what? Hence the word governor on a t-shirt. When I walk out the door, I disappear into the crowds, but down here, I'm the guy in charge, and I just have to make sure I'm here, and I just march around and make sure everyone is. All I want is people to enjoy themselves. Drink, eat, have a good time, intermingle, tell stories, talk about, you know, a lot of people come in here that are like me, they're older now, and they come to me and say, you know what, Jack, this reminds me of when I was a kid back in the UK or wherever. My dad and my uncle took me, and it's just, you know, we create an atmosphere and we create a kind of a community, you know. But certainly great question, because it does often get very heated.
A lot.
So that's what I do. I just walk around and just have to go, hey, can we just fucking bring it? And there's times I have to go, guys, do you want me to go upstairs and fucking have you dragged out of here? And if that rarely happens, but certainly it does get heated at times, all right, you know. So that's something I keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean,
and of course I have a feel for it. I can tell, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm sure you can see it beforehand, the way people are looking at each other.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
It's because we've gone to O'Hanlon's, Flannery's, all the, and they're straight up like, listen, I like that you are coming in from you enjoy soccer, but you're not coming in here with that jersey.
Right,
you know, we're a Manchester City bar. You're not coming in with Man United.
Yeah. I mean, look, everyone's welcome here, but the point that I always try to make to people is you must understand there are 30 clubs that are based here, and they'll get preference over clubs that are not based here. But certainly everyone is welcome. You know what I mean? And it works pretty well. And as I say, it's just a labour of love. That's what I do. And the key is that I live very close by, so I don't commute. I walk.
That's good.
So at the end of a long day, I'm like 10 minutes. I'm in my door. And I don't have to leave anywhere at 5 o'clock in the morning to be open here by 7. It's a 15-minute walk down here. So,
this is is literally legendary.
Well, you know what? It's if you're interested in the game, but most importantly, if you're interested in the culture of it, you'll find my story interesting. Because I was there on the front line in the early days. I'm 58 years of age now, but I was 25.
Looking 35.
Thank you very much. That's why I keep the lights low. I look good in low light, let me tell you. I frequent bars with low light as well.
Say that all the time, right? You look better in bar light.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark, nowadays everybody is familiar with streaming, with the ESPN apps, with Apple TV, Roku, cutting the cable for streaming. Jack goes into the rise of streaming and teaming up with the ESPN guys to bring live games to the bar. Because if you listened earlier, Jack was talking about playing taped games on VHS players for his bar patrons. So not live. That's how big a deal this was back in the early 2000s. This was the first live games to be shown in the New York sports bar scene. It changes the whole New York sports bar scene. Like, if nowadays we take for granted walking in and that there are thousands of games on the TV, when back then it was like, listen, whatever the NBA has on, one game.
I mean, think about this. There was a time up until maybe 30 years ago, 35 years ago, NBA Finals games were on tape delay. On CBS, they would show them after the 11 o'clock news. Unheard of. The World Cup, which obviously is coming to our shores in June, was not televised live every match until we got the World Cup in 1994. Before that, and I mentioned this in the pilot episode when we first started this podcast series, and I've mentioned it a couple of times since, but for those who might have missed it, what are you thinking? Go back and listen. I had to tape on my VHS the matches that were airing live on the Spanish networks. And I did not know enough Spanish to follow Andres Cantor or any of those other great announcers who were all phenomenal. I would watch, and this was pre-Scorebug too, to a degree. So you have to watch on fast forward, because I didn't want to invest 2 hours watching a replay, but I would watch on fast forward, and when I saw a break in the action, I would stop, rewind slightly before that, and then watch the goals as they happened on tape. Now we don't have to worry about that. 1994 changed all that, and obviously in the ensuing 32 years, you get matches from all across the globe as they happen live, which, quite frankly, is an amazing phenomenon. And a lot of that here in New York City and elsewhere, because, if it makes it in New York, it can make it anywhere. Jack Keane, the legend of the Football Factory, is the guy who helped launch the entire industry. And it's amazing.
We want to thank Jack Keane for giving us his time on a busy, busy Sunday morning, because it's always got stuff going on there at the Football Factory. And also want to thank him for, as we said, bringing soccer here live to New York City that we all get to enjoy. But I'm going to segue. I'm going to take another hard left here, and we're going to go back to our Chelsea interviews from the Football Factory back in December when Mark and I were there. And then we'll hear from Scott Tejerian about what he has to say about Chelsea's astrology chart.
One thing I think people should know about the Premier League, though, is, there's there's a ton of soccer leagues, and it's most of the time, like, Bayern Munich is always going to be playing in the Champions League. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Inter, those teams are always going to be playing in the Champions League. PSG, and it goes back to how differently England invested in their pyramid system than the others, where a big reason why Italian, Spanish, German football is, like, not very competitive or is not as
top heavy
massive, is because the winners get the most investments. Back in the day, there was this club called Portsmouth. They got relegated and they got put in, I think it's called arbitration or something like that, where they ran out of money. They were a massive, massive club in England. And when that happened, I think it was like early 2000s, England was like, we're going to actually invest in our whole league. I believe it's the winner gets the most. The 3 teams that get the next most are the teams that are relegated, and then everyone else in between shares the pie. And that's helped really balance the league. Like, as a Chelsea fan, I always want to be in Champions League, but I also don't want 90% of my regular season games to, like, be automatic wins either. It is fun grinding games out. Like, yes, of course, I'd rather them win all the time, but the league is better because of those investments that they made decades ago, and that's why we're soaring above club leagues like La Liga and Liga and Bundesliga.
Every game's fun to watch.
Yeah, we invested in all of the levels, and that's why it's hard to make Champions League in England, and it's not necessarily as hard in some of these other countries.
Yeah,
that's why I like English football too.
Dedicated slot to Inter, and there's a dedicated slot to Barcelona.
Yeah,
and it's a shock if they don't make it.
I mean, I think the last time Barcelona didn't make it was maybe in the 90s or something like that, maybe even before that. Same with Real Madrid, same with Bayern Munich, same with, PSG got invested in later, but before that there was kind of like a big 3 in French football. You see it in Portugal, you see it in Turkey, you see it in even Austria now with Red Bull coming in and doing all those investments. It's just very top heavy as opposed to what's best for the league. And I think a lot of it, we see a lot of players from the league go to bigger clubs in the league, like a lot of Chelsea squad. Cole Palmer is a bad example because he came from City, but Pedro Neto, Wesley Fofana, Tosin, there's Caicedo, Cucurella, Robert Sanchez. Like, half of our squad came already from within the Prem, and that is something that is because of all the investments that they made in the years past, where these clubs can be competitive as well.
I got one more question here before we go back, because I know you want to get back in the game there. What is it like? Because Chelsea is a squad that has good money, has deep pockets. They used to be Roman Abramovich. So they used to have really deep pockets. They get any player. What's the positive being able to get whatever player you want, and what's also the downside of that?
Yeah, well, I think we changed the model a little bit, so we're not necessarily going after like who the world might think is the best, but some positives are like you're getting some of these best players, and like, back in the day when we were winning leagues, we're still buying strikers to come and compete with Drogba, and they come in and, Shevchenko, Higuain, Crespo, you're expecting big things, Morata, you have high expectations, and if they don't perform well pretty early, you get turned on pretty quick. So that's some of the pros is like we can attract those players, and we can make even our best players fight for minutes, with Ramirez, Oscar, when Frank Lampard was at his prime, like Kevin De Bruyne was there. He couldn't get on the pitch. So that's a pro, but a con is like, if you better start playing well fast. Yeah.
So, I look at Xerxes over in Manchester United.
That's a great example.
He's amazing on Bologna. I really love him.
Yeah.
Gets over to Man U. He's not been terrible. He hasn't been good, and they've turned on him completely.
And they boot him off the pitch.
Yeah.
Højlund had to go on loan. They'll boot you out if you come in for big money and you don't perform.
Yeah.
So there's definitely pros and cons, and I think that's kind of the expectation as well, though. If you're going to come in for that big money, like, you better perform. So
it's
not that easy in the Prem, though.
It's the old school Yankees.
It's the Yankees, but it's always the Prem, so it's always going to be tough.
And now we're going into astrology with Scott Tejerian to give us the zodiac chart of Chelsea, and he kind of hit on the theme of winners in their zodiac chart. Chelsea has a very interesting history, up and down. What do you got on the chart for Chelsea?
Chelsea is March 10th, 1905. The sun was in Pisces. Mercury was in Pisces as well, just like Manchester City. Pisces is mutable water. It's ruled by Jupiter, the god of thunder, and Neptune, the god of fresh water in the sea. So very intuitive, very compassionate, empathetic, but when they feel like they're carrying too much, it's a tidal wave of emotion or feelings. Venus is in Taurus, and Mars is in Scorpio. So this is like the opposite placement to what we saw for Everton, because Everton, Venus is in Scorpio, Mars is in Taurus. But Chelsea, with Venus in Taurus, Mars in Scorpio, they also have a very loyal fan base, I would imagine. Very grounded in the senses and beauty, but also there's something sneaky about them. There's something where it's like, they attack out of the blue. They kind of shock you when they're coming up. Nobody really sees it. It's maybe somewhat surprising.
That's really interesting.
Oh, and then the moon also is in Taurus. So they're emotionally fulfilled. That's, very loyal in the emotions, but emotionally fulfilled by, show me the money. Show me the hardware, as you said.
Thanks again to Scott Tejerian. Before we go, if you're part of a supporters group, we're open to any and all teams fans dropping us a line, letting us know where we can find you guys on match day. We will definitely set something up. We will definitely come over to your guys' bar, to your conference room. We want to know where you're watching the matches. We want to know who your favorite team is. We want to know who your favorite players. We want to know why you hate your rivals. There's so many amazing places and people that we want to get out to, and we will gladly sit down, interview you guys, and have a pint. And if there is not a place and you're watching at your home and you're a big fan, we would like you to send us your sound bites, your emails. Tell us what you love most about your team, what it means for you to be a supporter of that team. We will put that on the air for all the sports world to hear. For Marc Renee, I'm Sean Castles. Thanks for joining us.
This has been the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc Renee and Sean Castles. Our executive producer is Sue Zizza. Marc Renee and Sean Castles are co-producers. David Shin is our master engineer. Assistant producer Avery Gehrig, and I'm Alicia Antwine. To be a guest on the Ultra World Podcast or learn all about sponsorship opportunities, send an email to ultraworldpod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the show on all the social media platforms at Ultra World Pod. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved, Ultra World Podcast, LLC.